All right, with this chapter, we have a new question. What happens when you add, subtract, multiply, and divide rational numbers? First, what's a rational number?
A number that's terminating.
What's that?
A number that's
Okay, a terminating what?
decimal.
Decimal. Terminating decimal is a rational number. What else?
Anything you can turn into a fraction.
Anything you can turn into a fraction. What's another type of decimal?
Negative.
What's another type of decimal? We said terminating. What else? Repeating. What's repeating?
A pattern.
Has a pattern. Okay. What's terminating mean then?
It just ends and doesn't have a pattern.
It stops.
Just ends and doesn't have a pattern. It stops. Good. So, what's our answer to this then? What happens when you add, subtract, multiply, and divide rational numbers? What do you get? You get a rational number. Yep. You get another rational number. Remember what I write down, you write down. That question is going to show up every day, okay? Just like last chapter. So today we're going to learn how to write fractions as decimals, and we're going to compare fractions and decimals. How do we compare numbers? What have we been doing when comparing numbers? Use inequalities. What are inequalities? Greater than, less than, or equal to. We're going to have those back today, okay? So, let's get into it. What is another way? How do you read that up there? 7/8. How do you read that? 7/8. What's another way I can read it? 7/8. What's another way I can read it? We said 7/8, 7/8. 7 divided by 8. That bar in there means divided. Okay? So, usually last chapter we did 7 divided by 8 and it worked out. Why does this not work?
Because 8 does not go into 7.
8 does not go into 7. So, what do we do from here?
I don't know. You have to
Hazel.
You put a decimal point and add a zero.
Yep, decimal point, add some zeros on the end. Okay. We put a decimal point and add some zeros. When you divide, what do you do with that decimal point? Where does it go?
down.
It goes straight up from where it's at, right? So that decimal's here. Now ask yourself, how many times does 8 go into 70? 8, right? What's 8 times 8? 64. Subtract, what do you get? 6. Bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 60? 7. What's 8 times 7? 56. Subtract. Then we have 40. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5. There is our answer right there. 0.875. So we are going to be doing long division again. Okay, I want to see you with that work. No calculators. All right, go ahead and try this one. What do you ask yourself first? How do you read that up there?
1/16. 1 divided by
1. Yep, 1 divided by 16th. All that you said was awesome. So does 1 go into 16?
No.
No, so what do we got to do? Add a decimal point, put some zeros. Does it matter how many zeros you write? Can you have an infinite amount of zeros?
Yes.
Yes, you can keep adding zeros if you need to. Okay, go ahead and try that one. How many times, 16 times 2? 32. Subtract, we get 8. I ran out of zeros. Add another 0, doesn't matter. Yep, add another 0. 16 goes into 85 times, what's 16 times 8? 16 times 5, sorry. It is 80. So, we got 0 here. Does that mean we're done? Yep, once you get 0 down there, that means you are done.
What?
Okay? So 0.0625 is our answer. Thumb up, thumb to the side, thumb down. How we doing? Getting better? Okay. Now we are going to get into repeating decimals. Again, what is a repeating decimal? Hazel.
Decimal that continues on and on forever.
Okay, what's special about a repeating decimal? There's a pattern. Has to have a pattern, okay? So, they did 5 divided by 12. What starts repeating here? The 6, right? So they put a bar above what is repeating. All right? Here, they did 2 divided by 11. What started repeating? 18. So they put a bar over 18. Remember, this negative out in front, what kind of answer are we going to have? Positive or negative? We're going to have a negative answer because positive divided by a negative or vice versa will give you what? A negative. Yep. So let's try this one together. 6 divided by 11. Does 11 go into 6? No. So I got to add decimals. Add zeros, add a decimal. Bring that decimal up. How many times does 11 go into 60? 5. What's 5 times 11? 55. Subtract. You get 5. Bring down a 0. How many times does 11 go into 50? 4, right? 4 times 11 is 44. So you get 60. Why is it going to repeat? You're going to get the same answer. You notice, let's see something here. You notice how we had 60 to start here? And now we have 60 again. So what's going to continue repeating? 54. So how do I write that as an answer?
0.54 over a 9.
With a bar on top, right? So once you see that pattern, you can stop and do the repeating symbol. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and try B. How do I read this? Hazel.
Negative.
4 divided by 33. And just remember there's a negative there. So your answer is going to be what? Negative. So I'm just going to put a negative up there. Doesn't work, so I got to put a decimal and some zeros. What happens to that decimal point? Straight up. Okay, how many times does 33 go into 40? How many times does 33 go into 40? 1 time. What's 1 times 33? 33. Subtract 40 minus 33? 7. Bring down a 0. How many times does 33 go into 70? 2. You get 66. You get 40. What do you notice? It's going to repeat because we got back to 40. So what's our answer? How do we write it?
Negative 0.12 repeating.
With a repeating bar. Don't forget that negative. All right? Any questions over this before we move on?
No.
All right. With the word problem here, it says Camille's soccer team won 32 out of 44 games to make it to the championships. How do I write that? 32 over 44. Are we comfortable with dividing for right now? Do I need to go through this?
I need to multiply.
Anybody want me to go through this? It's okay if you do. Do you want me to go through this one? No. Anybody want me to go through? All right. How would I set this up?
33 divided by 44.
32 divided by 44. Doesn't work, so what do I need to do? Add decimals, add zeros. Yep. We're not going to finish this one. Okay. Now we're going to get into this. Same concept. Okay, but now you're comparing which one's bigger or which one's smaller, or if they're equal to each other. Okay, so how do we do that?
Right percentage.
Here, we know 1/4. You should know by now that that's 0.25.
Yep.
So which one's bigger?
0.25.
Why is 0.25 bigger than 0.2?
That's a 4.
Because
That's a 4.
Because you have the
What?
It's 0.20 and 0.25 is bigger than 0.20.
Right, 0.25 is closer to,
100.
it's closer to 1, right? Closer to 1 or closer to the right side of our number line compared to the others. Okay, so how would I do B?
Oh, you set the number line up.
You can't do a number line. How do I turn those into decimals? You have to divide them, right? So we do 5 divided by 8. What do you notice? It's negative, so what's our answer going to be? Our answer is going to be negative. How many times does 8 go into 50?
4.
How many times does 8 go into 50?
5.
6. What's 6 times 8? 48. 50 minus 48? 2. Bring down to 0. How many times does 8 go into 20? 2. It's a 2. And then we have 16. Subtract. We get 4. Bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5. And that is 0, right?
That's a lot of work. Just
So we got negative 0.625. Now what do we need to do the other one? Same thing, right? 6 divided by 9, it's negative, so our answer is going to be negative. And it's not even, so we got to add a decimal and put some zeros. How many times does 9 go into 60? 6. Good. Oh, careful. 54. 6. It is going to be repeating. Why?
Because it repeated.
Because we have 60, right? So what is our answer going to be here? How do we write that as a decimal?
negative 0.6 repeat.
Negative 0.6 repeating, and then over here we had negative 0.625. If this is repeating, what's my next number going to be? 6. So which one of these is bigger?
Left.
Why is the left one bigger? Yeah, Brayden.
It's closer to 0.
It is closer to 0, okay? Be careful, they're negative, so negative is going to be opposite of what you think. Okay, it's closer to 0, it's closer to the right side of our number line. So if you need to write the number line, go ahead. Yeah? Go ahead and try A. You only have one fraction, you only need to do one of them. The other one's already a decimal for you. Go ahead and try that one. 13 divided by 20. Doesn't work, so we got to add a decimal and some zeros. How many times does 20 go into 130? 6. Do we need to keep going?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because 20 times 6 is 120.
Right, but we're just comparing, right? What's the other one?
0.7.
0.7. So this is 0.6 something and 0.7. Do we need to keep going, or do we already know which one's bigger? We already know which one's bigger. Which one's bigger?
Alligator
9.
is eating stuff.
So it is less than. You can go all the way through, but do you really need to? No. Okay. I'm going to skip B. Go on to this one. It says Jeremy got a score. This is on the back side of your notes. It says Jeremy got a score of 16 out of 20 on his first quiz and 20 out of 25 on his second quiz. Which quiz has the higher score? Go ahead and try and figure it out. Raise your hand if you haven't figured it out.
Wait, have it or have it?
Have it. Robert, what'd you get? 4 which one? Both of them. So what's our answer? They're equal to each other. You get 0.8 for both. So you know they're equal. So it says which quiz has the higher score? Both. Yep. Any questions over turning fractions to decimals? We're good?